Hello. Hi, it's Jacqueline. I'm live in IVF Solutions with Jacqueline. Tonight we're going to be talking about pregnancy discomfort, and I'm not talking about the kind of discomfort that comes when you are pregnant. We're not talking about back pain or reflux. We're talking about the kind of discomfort that you might have or feel when perhaps you're around a friend who announces a pregnancy or another baby shower or something like that. And tonight I am speaking to you very much as a professional who's working with lots of women experiencing this. In case you didn't know, I'm a naturopath, a natural fertility expert. I've also done a lot of studies with the mind. I've studied NLP and hypnotherapy. So there's a lot of stuff that I can actually pull from that. But the other side to my story is that I'm really going to be talking to you tonight from a personal point of view as well, because if you didn't know, I have been through fertility struggles. I do have 3 little children now, all conceived via IVF. And so my experience is one that's quite unique in that I have got the stories and the understanding from what women have told me in clinic, but I've also got this understanding and feeling of what I actually experienced. So let's get into it. And I really, if you're comfortable to ask questions, if you've got thoughts, if there's something that you want to talk to me about tonight, feel free to pop them in the comments, and I'll address them as I go. Or if something really resonates with you, let me know and I can expand on that, what I'm actually talking about. So what I really want to nut out with you tonight is this uncomfortable feeling that can come up when you hear another pregnancy announcement. It might be a baby shower, it might be a gender reveal, it might be a pregnant belly on the street, it might be a birth announcement, it might be seeing a baby. It's very different for lots of women, but I find that some women actually even experience all of those different things, but it's this discomfort that comes up. And I think that discomfort can be felt in lots of different ways too. I think, and I'm going to explain a little bit more what I've seen women or heard women describe to me. I think it can be felt in a myriad of ways, whether that is a deep sadness, whether it's grief, whether it's just pure hurt and heartache, whether it's jealousy or envy, or whether it is sorrow. There's a full range of words that people have used to describe it to me, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit with you tonight. If you're joining me or watching me, I think that you probably know what I'm talking about. And so I'd love to hear, if you're open to it, a word that you would use to describe it. But if not, I think that you have an understanding of where I'm going with this. Now, I've done a quick Google search. And if you just type in pregnancy jealousy, say, for example, the top searches that come up along with that are, and I'm doing this to show you how common this is, the phrases that people actually type in because of what they're experiencing. So pregnancy jealousy, it comes up, first one, pregnancy jealousy, sister-in-law. Pregnancy envy, jealous of every pregnant woman. Dealing with pregnant friends during infertility. How to deal with infertility when everyone around you is getting pregnant. My best friend is pregnant and I'm sad. Baby envy definition. So these are really common things that women are experiencing. So I don't know, I think that knowing that the journey is shared, that there's another person feeling the exact same way as you, or something along the same lines as you, I think that it actually helps because it normalizes this feeling. I think this is actually something that a lot of people don't talk out loud about. I have had the privilege in clinic of hearing people's stories around this a lot, but I don't think that it's something that people talk out loud about a lot. So I don't think that I don't think that people know that other people are searching these sorts of things, or that other people experience those feelings. And I guess that's partly why I wanted to do this as well tonight, was to normalize these feelings that you might have. So these are very common feelings that a lot of women can have that are struggling with fertility and struggling with that sorrow and that sadness and that grief. I also want to normalize this in saying that it's actually true. There is research, there's a study that showed, this was from 2014, yep, and it showed that while it might feel like everyone around you is getting pregnant, they probably are. In fact, it happens during friends. This was a sociological study where they looked at groups of friends, and they found that the pregnancy was almost not contagious, but they called it a pregnancy. What was the word? A pregnancy influence, I think. No, the fertility influence. So they said this is fertility influence that happens amongst groups of friends. So it is actually common that one or two friends start to get pregnant, and more people within the friendship circle start to get pregnant. And they went into the sociological factors that influence that, which is not really important for us to know about. But so when it feels like everyone around you is getting pregnant, it probably happens. It probably is happening like that. It happens in workplaces too. One person can announce their pregnancy in a workplace, and then before you know it, another 2 or 3 people, depending on the size of your team, have also announced their pregnancy. So sometimes it feels like it's just what's happening around you, but it actually probably is. That's what research shows us. So again, I want to normalize that feeling in that it probably actually is. There's a lot of people falling pregnant around you, and the way our subconscious mind works is also that it will start to see things very easily. So for example, and I don't like to compare wanting to have a baby with a car, but it's just using the analogy for the way your subconscious mind works. But if you decide that you'd like to get a red car and you're thinking about getting a red car, if tomorrow you go out and you've got that on your mind, your subconscious mind will pick out every red car that it sees. It's just the way our subconscious mind actually works. What's in your awareness is what it's going to focus on and see. So one, I think your brain is geared to see it, but two, we know that in society it happens that way, that pregnancy kind of is contagious among friendship groups and workplaces. And so I hope that normalizes this feeling that everyone around you, it seems like they're getting pregnant. So let me speak to you first in what I've heard women say to me in clinic, because I think that I have heard lots of different descriptions. I've had some women say to me that they've completely socially isolated themselves, that it's the way to cope for them, that they find it much easier to not go to the baby shower, to not go to the hospital when a baby is born, or they avoid going out for a coffee date with the friend who's got a beautiful bump. And I've definitely heard people say that they feel bad that they feel that way, but it's how they feel. I've got women that tell me, so there's that social isolation that can start to happen. There is also a lot of women that describe it in different ways. So sadness is a common one. Grief, I've got people that tell me they feel hurt, like they feel hurt by their friends being pregnant, and they say, I know I shouldn't be hurt, but it's the way that it feels. I've got women that have told me they're angry. They're angry that I'm going to throw an example out there. They're angry that their neighbour smokes and drinks and just doesn't, said we weren't even trying and it happened, and they literally feel angry that the other person is pregnant. I've got people that have told me they feel deep jealousy, and they don't want to feel jealous, but they do feel jealous. I've got people that have used the word envy, that they feel envious of the friend and the pregnancy, that they wish they were announcing their pregnancy, that they're frustrated that another person gets to share that story and they don't get to tell that news. If anyone feels like describing a word that because I can see there's a few of you here, if anyone feels like describing a word that they feel, put it in the comments. I've got people that say it hurts, like it's painful. They can literally feel the pain of it. I've got women that describe to me it makes them feel hopeless, like this is never going to happen to me. And this is not every woman. I'm certainly not saying that every woman experiences this full gamut of emotions. But I think that a lot of women, when they're experiencing fertility struggles, feel something along the spectrum of these different emotions. Now, I'm going to speak personally to you as well, because while I do like to give you information, if you've watched my other videos, I like to give you practical tools about hormones and endo and PCOS, and I'm going to give you information about, I've given you last week information about male factor fertility. I'm going to give you a lot of the practical tools and practical information about ways that you can enhance your fertility. But I also want to speak very openly and vulnerably with you as well, because I think that I want to share with you that I understand what it feels like. So when I was going through my fertility struggles, or actually when we first found out that we were going to have fertility struggles, we weren't yet trying to have a baby. And so I actually found it hard even going to work. I was working as a natural fertility expert. This was back in 2007. So I found it hard to go to work and speak about people trying to conceive. I found it hard when people would share their pregnancy. I was so joyful for them, but my inside I was fearful. That's one of the feelings that I had. I was fearful that that wasn't going to happen for me because I wasn't there yet. So mine came up as a bit of a fear to begin with. And in the end, while I tried to process what I wanted to do at that stage of my life, I stepped away from my job. And for about a period of 12 months, I focused on just general health and nothing to do. I mean, there were fertility patients, but it wasn't my expertise. It wasn't the thing that I was focusing solely on, just why I found my place. Then when I got back into focusing on fertility again, and also that we started going through IVF or preparing for IVF, there were times that it actually impacted upon friendships, and I wish that it didn't. I wish that I hadn't felt the sadness or I felt jealous, and I knew that I didn't want to feel jealous, but I did. And there were times that I could use all my tools, and I had this all under control. And I'm going to teach you some things that I did and tools that I used and using clinic. And I used these really successfully sometimes. And there were other times that I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it all together. And I like to be real about that too, because I don't want you to think that even that I know this stuff, that my journey was perfectly and smooth and easy and I didn't have to continually work at it. So there were times that it did impact friendships, and then there were times that it didn't, and I would be able to get my mind around it very well and just feel the pure joy for friends. My struggles more so came up around pregnancies rather than babies. When the baby was actually born, I felt pure joy. But I did have a struggle with pregnancy announcements and pregnancies. And that's the journey that I was at. That's what I had to learn about. And I learned a lot about myself during that time, but I just wanted to be really honest with you tonight and let you know that I had these thoughts and these feelings as well. I think I wrote a couple of notes about what I wanted to say about my personal journey because I didn't want to leave something out. Another feeling that I had during that time was grief. I was grieving for the fact that the friends that would say, oh, we just got pregnant straight away, or we got pregnant on the first month. I grieved for that was probably not going to be my story. So that was one of the other emotions that I felt towards other friends. I can see, so feeling guilty for being, and this is a comment, feeling guilty for being envious of close friends, happy for them, but feeling very isolated as my best friends have all become pregnant. I think this is a really real one. I'm going to give talk to you a little bit around this. I think it's like we know we want to feel pure joy. So for example, with one of my friends, she'd had a tricky time, and even when she announced her pregnancy, I still found it hard. Even though I was joyful for her that she had, but I found it hard. And then, like you've just mentioned, then I felt guilty for that. And so I started to go down a bit of a sabotage on myself and making myself feel worse for that. But I do want to try and normalize this for you as well, because I realized very early on that we have to try and let go and be kinder to ourselves and recognize that these are normal human emotions, and anything that we feel or that comes up for us can be beneficial. Because I think that then if we put the guilt that can come up with that, the guilt that can come up around the envy and the jealousy, I feel like that emotion is really, it's not necessarily the constructive part behind it. The jealousy or the envy, I think, does have a message for us, and I'm going to tell you what that message is. But the guilt that comes up around the jealousy and the envy, I don't think that necessarily really serves us a purpose when we're going through that. But I relate exactly to that feeling. And not only do I relate to it and have felt it, I've heard a lot of women describe that too. And the social isolation part is a really big piece of that puzzle. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight. One of my steps is about self-preservation, and part of that can be pulling away, but we've got to make sure we're not socially isolating ourselves as well. So let me get into this anyway. Let me get into some of my tips, because while I hope that you understand that I resonate with this, because I felt it, and I did have to work on this at times. Like I said, sometimes it came really easily to me, but other times I really had to work hard at it. So I felt this, but I also want to normalize it by saying that if you have any guilt around this, that a lot of women describe the same feeling. So you're feeling around this, that you're not alone, that there's nothing, if I can say it like this, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a bad friend or a bad person or a bad anything for having any of those emotions that come up. And I do want to help you try and practically work through this. As I'm going through my 3 top things that I think that you can begin to work on with this, I'd love to know if there's any ways that you find best to cope with this, because I can tell you now that anything that you find has helped you cope better, someone will also benefit from that too. In the Facebook group today, someone commented that they find their greatest way to cope is by having a lot of trust. They trust that the time will come. They can't control that, but they have just predicted, they really trust that their time and their baby will come to them. And that's the way that it helps them to cope. So if there's another way that you have, please comment and let's share that, because I think that it might help someone else. But the 3 things that I wanted to talk to you tonight about are ways to cope with this discomfort, however it feels. The first one is self-forgiveness. The second one is the self-talk. And the third point that I want to speak to you tonight about is self-preservation. So let me talk about this self-forgiveness. It's kind of one thing that I've already mentioned here, and that is that I think that you need to go a little more gently on yourself. Emotions are not necessary. There's not a good or a bad emotion. It's how these are normal human experiences. These are normal human emotions that come up. But when we associate a negative or a bad connotation to either of it, it creates a negative impact on that feeling, and therefore we can beat ourselves up, feel guilty, sabotage ourselves, sabotage our thoughts, feel angry at ourselves. And I think we need to be kinder than that. We need to go more gently than that, and a little bit of self-forgiveness that says, even if this feeling comes up, even if it's not the reaction that I want to have right now, it is the reaction that's coming up. It is the feeling that's coming up. And what you do with that feeling is still something that you can work on. So if it's a big feeling that comes up, whether it's anger or rage or jealousy or envy or a really deep sadness or hurt, I think it's good to respond rather than react with that emotion. So sit with it for a little while and hopefully respond to a friend or to an announcement when you feel ready to, rather than reacting in a way that's got that heightened emotion behind it. So I think that's a part of that. But the other thing I think is that we just need to be kinder and have this self-forgiveness that says, I'm a human being. I'm learning my way through this. I am figuring it out the best that I can, and that we're always evolving. I'm learning more every day. Every time something comes up like this, I'm learning. But the other thing that I want to say with that is, with these emotions that come up, if it's jealousy, and if it's envy, or if it's anger, or if it's something like that, and you think that it's a negative sort of feeling and you don't want to have that, and that creates this feeling of guilt, then I think we just need to forgive ourselves and say that I recognize that I'm still evolving. But what I want you to do, what I want you to remind yourself is, what's behind that emotion? So when you feel sad, or when you feel hurt or envious or jealous, what's actually behind that emotion? If you know, put it in the comments. If you don't, I'm going to tell you in a minute. But there's normally something behind that. And what's driving that hurt or anger or sadness or jealousy is the deep desire that you have to have a baby. So I actually think that we can say, you can use this in a way and reframe it in your mind that says, oh man, there's that jealousy again, or man, there's that anger, there's that sadness, there's that hurt, whatever it is. What's it doing? It's just reminding me how deeply I want this. I am on the right path working towards this. I am on the right path working on my health. I'm on the right path working on my mindset. I'm on the right path with my naturopath, with my doctor, whatever you're doing. You're on the right path. because you still have this deep desire to have this come together. I think if nothing came up, if there was no emotion that came up about it at all, either you were very evolved as a human being, and I don't think I'm yet to see anyone that has nothing come up. But otherwise, it's just, if nothing came up, then you'd probably question your desire, whether or not this is actually what you really, really deeply, deeply want. So if those emotions are coming up for you, I want you almost to, like I said, forgive yourself if it feels like a negative emotion or you feel guilty around it. And then send love to yourself and say, this is what I want. Like, this is what that's about. This emotion is about my deep desire for a baby or my family or to have a child with my partner, or a child by yourself. This is something that you deeply desire. So send love to that part of yourself that wants that and says, yeah, this is right. That's right. That's what I want. I really, really want to have this baby. I really, really want to have a child in my life. So that's my first thing, bit of self-forgiveness and love that says this deep desire is what's driving some of these emotions. The second thing that I think that you can do to help you cope is be mindful of your self-talk. Now, let me give you a little bit of information about your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind needs to hear something over and over and over again. It's an act of repetition before it can play it out very easily for you. For example, when you were driving a car or when you were learning to drive a car, particularly let's say you learned to drive a manual car, you had to think every time you took off. You had to think when you were changing gears. You had to think about the times you were moving back through the gears. Now, if you still have a manual car, I can guarantee that today you didn't think about every time that you changed the gears. You didn't think about every time you took off in the car. You probably didn't even think about putting your seatbelt on in the car today, but you did it. That's all the things that your subconscious mind just does for you. You've done it that many times. You've repeated it so many times now that it just happens without you even thinking it. Now, you can use this same pattern that your subconscious mind hears something over and over and over again. You have to repeatedly do it. Think about it. Consciously think about it over and over and over again until it gets to the point where your subconscious mind can run something for you without you having to think about it. So, a series of affirmations that you can say to yourself, a series of self-talk that keeps you on the path of what you're wanting, and it keeps you with those feelings that make you feel good about this experience, can really be useful during this time. Now, one of my personal affirmations that I used to use and used to say was, there's a little soul just waiting to come to me. And it was what helped me get through IVF cycles that didn't work. I would use that one and I would say, the little soul that's waiting to come to me is not ready yet, or that little, I just used to keep talking about this little soul. That little soul will come to me. And I used to use that affirmation a lot, and it really helped me. Another affirmation that a lot of women can find useful is the one that says, pregnancy is coming closer to me. And every time I see someone who's pregnant, pregnancy is coming closer to me. So you see another pregnant belly, or you see another birth announcement, or you go to another baby shower and you see that pregnant mama, the affirmation that you have to consciously say to yourself to begin with is, this means pregnancy is coming closer to me. There's another baby, there's another bump, pregnancy is coming closer to me. And if you keep saying that over and over again, it can be that your subconscious mind will run that automatically for you one day. And you'll go to a baby shower, you'll see a birth announcement, you'll see a pregnant belly, and your subconscious mind will run off with, pregnancy is coming closer to me. That baby means pregnancy is coming closer. And I think that's a really nice affirmation for you to say. Another affirmation can be that I trust that pregnancy will come to me. I trust that pregnancy will come to me. So again, it might be every time you see a baby, every time you see a bump, I trust that my turn will come. I trust that my time will come. I trust that pregnancy is coming to me. So you can just keep saying over and over and over again an affirmation that reaffirms what you want, until it gets to the point in time where that self-talk can run itself automatically, and you actually feel okay when you see that happen. And like I said to you, I'm happy to share my personal experience. Sometimes that script ran automatically for me and I'd stand back and go, yep, I got that time. And there were other times that I found it hard. I haven't gone back over those circumstances enough to tell you why I found it harder in some circumstances, and other times it didn't bother me at all. It's going to be, I'm actually think that would be interesting for me to go back and think about whether or not it was times when my coping mechanisms were down, Maybe I was more tired, more stressed. I'm going to go back and think about that. But why it was very easy for me sometimes to run with those affirmations, and other times I found it hard. But even if half of the time it happens, you find one of those scripts can run, well, that's a major win compared to where you might be now, where you're finding it tricky some of the time. So we've talked about self-forgiveness. We've talked about the self-talk or the affirmations. And the third thing that I think can help is this self-preservation. Now, self-preservation could be defined as self-care as well. So how can you almost protect yourself? How can you take care of yourself in the best way that you can to cope with this? Now, that could be making sure you have enough sleep, that you're feeling, because, for example, if you're feeling super exhausted, we all know that our coping resources are down. So if you are really stressed with work, or anything else, that maybe it's your fertility, whatever is going on, but you're not sleeping well, your ability to cope with a baby shower, a pregnancy announcement might be down. So your self-care might be just making sure you're focusing on getting lots and lots of early nights. It might be about taking your supplements, your herbs, your vitamins, eating well, doing your exercise, moving your physical body every day might be that self-care that helps you cope. It might be connecting with a particular friend. It might be talking out loud with your partner. Any ways of self-care that help to raise your coping mechanisms. But the other part of this self-preservation that I want to talk to you about is the practicality side. So is it good for you to go to that baby shower? Or is it not? Are you at a point where your hurt, sadness, grief is too deep right now? And the best thing for you to do is send messages of love, your gift, whatever you want to do for that person, and then decline going to the baby shower. Is it a good enough friend that you can speak openly and honestly with and share how much you want to be there, but it's just really hard for you right now? And I'm giving you the permission, because in our society sometimes we feel like we can't say no, or we can't let someone down. But if it's that hard for you, maybe you can have a one-on-one celebration with that person. Maybe you can find an alternative way to celebrate with them that doesn't involve having to cope with it in a room full of people at the same time. There is a fine line, though, between becoming socially isolated or isolating yourself from friendships that mean too much from you, that end up hurting the friendship, or that end up hurting your the way you fit into your community, because you are becoming isolated. And these are not unique to any one or two people in clinic. These are common stories that I've heard happen. So I do think it's important to address them. But there is no specific answer. It's a self-inquiry with this to see how it feels for you. So maybe there is a bit of pulling away. And it might be that you say, I'm going to pull away from this for the next month. I'm just going to do some self-reflections. I'm going to be doing working on something like my affirmations. I'm going to work on getting good sleep. I'm going to work on my own coping mechanisms. I'm going to really fill my own cup up, so that then after this month, I feel like I've got a better ability to cope. I think that might be a safer way of doing it if you feel like you need to pull away for a while, rather than just pulling away without a defined date. But it's so unique to you that I just want you, just check in with yourself. I think that's the best thing that I could say, is check in with yourself. And if you do need to socially pull away for a little while, then see what feels right for you. But I don't want it to be that fertility struggles end up causing you to feel more socially isolated than what they already can do for some women. So if you need to skip an event, for example, one event is not going to, if you can't go to that one person's baby shower, but you express to them how you're feeling, if they're a really close friend to you, I feel like they should understand. And like I said, you might create your own little special celebration together. I think it's very important, even if you decide to socially pull away from some social occasions, that you stay really connected to someone. And that might be a good friend. Maybe your best friend is pregnant, and that best friend and you are just finding it hard to click right now, because she doesn't want to talk about her pregnancy as much because she knows that you're struggling. you're finding it hard because you don't just feel pure joy, even though you know you want to, but you're not. There's other almost sadness from yourself that's coming up. And the two of you might just move just slightly apart just for this phase. Friendships will come back together if they're supposed to come back together, but the other part is just still stay connected to someone. If your best friend is the person that you've always spoke openly with, you still need to have that open communication. Maybe your partner can pick that place up, maybe not. It might be another girlfriend. It might be a work colleague that you have a deep relationship with, or someone that you trust, most importantly, and someone that you can be raw and vulnerable and honest with and know that it's safe. But you need to still have connection. I think fertility is isolating enough, let alone pulling away from social occasions because they're around pregnancy, and then feeling even more socially isolated. So just make sure you are staying really connected to someone, whether it's your partner or a friend. So yeah, I think that's really what I wanted to say around that. I can't give you an answer as to whether or not I think you need to pull away, because you can inquire that within yourself. But just a little bit of self-preservation and self-protection. If it feels important for you to go, then maybe you just sit one-on-one with one person in that social situation, rather than trying to get around the whole room and feel like everyone's going to ask you the same questions about when you're going to have a baby or something like that, or how exciting it is, and it's just hard for you to find that excitement every single time someone asks you. So just, yeah, self-protection and self-preservation are okay sometimes, and give yourself the permission for that if you actually need it. I hope this helps with you tonight. There's a lot more that I can talk around this with you. If you feel like it is something that is really hard and it's one of your biggest struggles, comment in the video as you're watching it, or send me a private message afterwards. And if it is something that you want me to dive deeper into, I'm happy to. But I feel like these 3 things are things that you need to do and begin to work on if you're not already, to try and help. So let's recap them. Self-forgiveness, go gently on yourself and know that every human emotion is perfectly fine. There is no good or bad emotion. It's how we use or react with that emotion, and whether or not it ends up creating something in ourselves that we don't like, something ourselves that ends up fueling something that we don't want. But go gently on yourself. Acknowledge the emotion is there, because this is coming from a truly deep desire in yourself to keep working towards having this baby. Make sure your self-talk is kind. Make sure your self-talk is reaffirming to your subconscious over and over again the thing that you want. So that what you want the reaction to do when you see a pregnant belly is to say, it's my turn soon, or pregnancy is coming closer, or that little soul is coming to me. I trust that pregnancy will come in my time. Any of those words that you just keep saying over and over and over again. And the third one that I want you to consider is self-preservation and self-protection and self-care, kind of all tied in together. How do you need to best take care of yourself to protect yourself and preserve yourself while you're actually going through this? Before I wrap this up tonight, I can see that there's still a few of you here with me to the end. Is there any questions that you have for me tonight, or is there any discussion that you want to open up around this? Perhaps any thoughts that you've had that I haven't touched on or covered on that you hope that I would? Any social circumstances that you struggled with, you didn't know how to react, and you want to brainstorm something out? Is there any thoughts that you have for me that you'd like me to go over with you tonight? While I just wait to hear from you, I'll just check my notes if there's nothing else that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, just one thing I guess I could expand on slightly with that is, I did mention it, but in our society, a lot of people find it very hard to say no. And I do think that fertility struggles, if you haven't heard me speak much already, I do think that I think there's parts of this journey, I've never found a better word than journey, but I think the parts of this journey that can actually help set us up for motherhood in different ways to people that haven't been through fertility struggles. I think that you can enjoy parts of this ride, and that's what I'm here. That's really what I want to help bring, is how can you enjoy this as much as you possibly can as well. And so one of the things that I think that you can take from this part of the journey is that as a mother, you will end up needing to say no sometimes for your own health, well-being, for your own mental outlook. And I think that as you're going through fertility struggles, it is okay to say no to some things occasionally that are too hard for you, that put you in a position of feeling those emotions that you don't want to feel. So this experience of perhaps saying no to things occasionally that feel comfortable, that you feel okay with saying no to, is good practice, because I know that you're here because you're wanting to work towards this. Like, I know you're working towards being a mother, and we're going to get you there, right? That's what you're here for. So I want to help you learn things that can help you as a mother as well. And one of those is knowing when it's okay to say no, and or not even that, how to say no. And I think it comes with practice. So I just want to, again, give you permission to actually say no if you need to. Look, I hope this has been helpful. If you do have any questions, make sure you send me a private message or comment in the box below. If you haven't already, I'm going to put the link in the comments to an IVF checklist or a fertility preparation checklist. It's to help you feel really confident, knowing that you're really working on your body and your mind, everything that you need to cover or think about going into either fertility treatments or even trying on your own. So I'll put that comments in the link I'll put the link in the comments below. You can work with me privately in clinic. I'm available face-to-face in Launceston, and I support people whether they're trying to enhance their fertility to conceive naturally, or whether they are trying to conceive through fertility treatments or IVF. So we can work face-to-face if you're somewhere local to me. The other way that I work with lots of women is online too. So we just go to a virtual meeting room, an online meeting room, and we do a consultation exactly the same way as if we were sitting face-to-face with each other. I'm very passionate about this, and if you haven't already picked that up, I'm very passionate about helping women realize their dreams of becoming mothers, and I love supporting you through pregnancy. I'm there for the whole ride. So if you are looking to connect with someone to help you on this journey, send me a private message and we can organize an appointment for us to connect and for me to help you on that path. I look forward to chatting with you again. Please let me know if you have any questions, but otherwise, bye for now, and I'll talk to you soon.